everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today we've got the pleasure of watching BOMBODRILLO. Yeah, a name. The brain rot continues, not just from me playing World of Tanks for 15 years now, but also from usernames. But dude, my username is QuickyBaby, so I can't really complain. Playing in what I think is the easiest tier 11 to play, it is the KR-1. But just because it's easy doesn't mean that great players can't also have insanely good games with the vehicle, as we're going to see BOMBODRILLO doing here. So the KR-1, just why is it the easiest tier 11 to play? And I would recommend probably the first one you should get along with the Taschenratte. Because it's basically just an IS-7 with massive improvements. By far the biggest upgrade on this tank has to be the 7 degrees of gun depression. That extra degree allows you to work so many ridges that the IS-7 just purely can't. It also means that you can further elevate the hull armor, which means that it's easier to hide the lower plate while still getting shots on your opponent. And also, importantly, when you're using 7 degrees of gun depression, that means that the upper plate is better angled against your foes. The vehicle, I'd say, has maybe like a slightly worse turret than the IS-7, especially from the side. And it does also have a weak point on top of the vehicle. But the weak point is small, and really, they have to fire gold to stand a chance of going through it. And even if you hit it clean with gold, it still feels like it's maybe like a 1 in 2 chance of going through it. So those are the key upgrades of the KR-1 with regards to its statistics, apart from things like having heat rounds, which provide you a little bit more flexibility. One of the, by far, the weakest things about the IS-7 was not having good enough gold to bludgeon through thick surfaces reliably like that mouse, whereas the heat with 330 definitely will. Not going to be so good against angled surfaces, though, as probably the APCR rounds would have been on the KR-1. But I would far rather have heat and good APCR like on this tank, because that means that when you need to fire for like an overmatch or something, you've got those APCR rounds. But when you want to fire at a thinly armored surface that you can't manage to overmatch, then you actually have the heat rounds, because remember, heat can go up to 85 degrees of angled armor, so just so much more flexible with its ammunition loadout. And I'm not talking about the elephant in the room, and that is that firstly the KR-1, huge amount of hit points extra. The base hit points on this vehicle, 2,600 compared to the IS-4's, I believe, 2,400, which really helps. But the real big elephant in the room, and that is that this thing rams. It's probably the best rammer in World of Tanks, I'd say. I think the E50M still gets close, because the E50M does have more grunt in the engine and has field mods that allows that vehicle to take less ramming damage and to deal more ramming damage. But guess what? Wargaming decided to copy that for the KR-1 as well. And as you manage to upgrade this vehicle, its ability gets more powerful. And the ability is, you guessed it, extra ramming damage and less ramming damage received. And that means that the KR-1 is just an absolute beast in that regard. I've seen stupid things once you've got controlled impact on your driver, which is a must-have on this vehicle. If you take a spall liner as well, which is not the main build that I would have, but when I want to go ultra-fast and use fuel instead of a med kit, the spall liner is capable of that. Ramming things and just taking absolutely no damage, or for example, like out-ramming vehicles that this tank should never be able to out-ram, like big German super heavies, like the Maus. If they aren't using controlled impact, the abilities on this vehicle allows it to out-ram tanks that literally weigh 100 tons more. Oh man, that Maus, that was a pretty brutal ammo rack. I'm sure that chap will be happy about it, however. So, all in all, that means that all of these attributes just add up to the KR-1 just being this absolute wild vehicle. It has maybe not quite as good hold down, but better flexibility to go hold down than the IS-7, and boy does it have a way better gun, I'd say, than the IS-7 all in all. With just good all-round statistics, and even the turret traverse dispersion 0.06, meaning that you can happily drop vert stabs. And while we see BOMBODRILLO here using an experimental turbo, you know what? It's optional. I'd probably still rather take the Bond turbo on this vehicle, just so you have that real raw engine power for either going up a slope or alternatively just trying to reach this vehicle's ridiculous top speed and plowing your 80-ton tank with glorious epic rams. But BOMBODRILLO isn't interested in glorious epic rams. BOMBODRILLO is interested in just getting absolutely ridiculous farm here. Was this the most nonchalant 9,000 damage you've ever seen in World of Tanks? It was for me. Well, it's a lot more than 9,000 damage now with a great HE penetration into the FV405. Bombadrillo is going to slap another round and unfortunately take a shell from the Badger to be able to deliver it. But oh wait, yeah, there's something I forgot to talk about the KR-1 as well, and that is that its frontal armor outside of that lower plate does feel a lot more idiot-proof. And with the IS-7, I'd say that it's definitely got the better turret, but the KR-1 definitely has the better hull. Just stupid levels of armor, 180 at the front, 170 at the side. That's crazy compared to something like an IS-4, for example, which is famous for incredible side armor. And so that means that this thing just has this all-round idiot-proof protection. And I have to admit, I play this thing like an absolute idiot. I drive it around, I try and get it killed in some way, in some hopefully epic, glorious form, you know, rushing into multiple vehicles, driving into stupid locations to see if I can be able to make it work and so on and so forth. But the vehicle just seems to remain. It just can't seem to kill it like it's some kind of Soviet Terminator, just casually pumping out 11,000 damage in the first 7 minutes of this battle. And even though I try and limit test this vehicle for sure, it still just seems to pump out big damage games and also big assistance games, because any tank that's capable of making YOLO pushes is very capable of also being a fairly decent scout. So Bombadrillo has kicked so much butt in this game that they're down to only having 11 rounds left, and there's still a good amount of hit points left on the enemy team. Bombadrillo doesn't want to test the armor on this vehicle driving out in front of a Progetto and a Badger, and I think that's probably the most sensible option. That Badger firing gold, especially from above, probably going to be able to shoot down on the hull armor and even be able to contest it. And that's if they don't manage to hit the lower plate on this vehicle. But I can tell Bombadillo is just itching. They're itching to get forwards and to release. And you can see, are they going to go now? Now they're going to try and find that Badger. Oh, beautiful shot. Right through the side armor there. The British Tier 10 TD vanquished. And that's going to allow the KR-1 to cover some ground, to put some pressure up on the opponents, and to be able to have all new hull down position to contest the Progetto. And I really like Bombadillo here using the APCR rounds with good intuition switch and using just the right ammunition for the job. You could argue the heat rounds will be probably a little bit better against the upper hull of the Progetto, and sometimes even the funky ricochets that you have on the turret. Plus the APCR with the overmatch, no silly tracks getting in the way. The efficient round to use here. It's Bombadillo now in a bit of a sandwich, not the kind of sandwich you want to be in World of Tanks, with the Progetto coming around the corner, and clutch shot, just let it rip and pray. Nearly 13,000 damage here and 4 kills. It's just like a fantasy game at this point, right? Bombadillo just like this hero just driving around with huge plot armor. They're definitely not starring in Game of Thrones here, although maybe they will be in a second, with still 3,000 hit points to farm. Bombadillo's decided that the mouse is not worth their attention. Driving up that slope against a mouse, not worth it. Leave the Type 5 Heavy to do that work, and instead look for the 50B, or alternatively look for getting the back of the heavies. And I can't blame them. You know, when you're one shot shy of 13,000 damage and the possibility of doing even more, man, it's just like a World of Tanks fable, this game, right? And Bombadrillo has just made it look oh so easy. Wow, lovely high roll there into the back. This vehicle having, I think it's 530 or 540 alpha, 540 alpha. 530 being the base, and then 540 once you get that extra 10 upgrade. Up to 13,500 damage. 5 rounds left, enough still for a little bit more. And this can opener still very healthy here at 1,100. Bombadrillo is going to go get into another hull down position where this thing is just the apocalypse tank. A lovely high roll for 578 means that Bombadrillo is now over 14,000 damage with a 50B left. And just such nonchalant gameplay, boys and girls. The KR-1 just making this look easy. But let me tell you, look, this is not a case of the tank getting 14,000 damage. This is obviously Bombadrillo being an excellent player who knows how to play this vehicle. But even if you're not an excellent player, you can still do this kind of stuff, just not quite so extreme, right? But it has all of the capabilities of just being this all-round perfect heavy for getting places and dominating the battlefield. Now, is it going to be like an imbattable, capable of doing up to a 2,000 damage in a magazine very quickly? No, this tank's DPM is not good. It's not good at all. And even if you try to pump it up to the max, like we see Bombodrillo here, with the Bond Rammer, with the Directive as well, it's not going to have the DPM that you'll be accustomed to on the T803 or the Blackrock, for example. And it doesn't really have the totally super safe push play, drive in front of everything armor that you'll have on the Taschenratte. So, is it just the all-round outrageous best heavy at tier 11 that you can get your hands on? Not in all scenarios, but I think in enough scenarios to make it definitely, it's tussling for position with the Taschenratte for not only just being the easiest tier 11 heavy to play, but also I'd say for being the best tier 11 to play. And you know what, it's not a KR-1 game unless there's been some ramming damage. With that tiny little bump being 400, with Bombodrillo finishing them off. And just getting 15,000 damage, guys. 15,000 damage. Taking like my best game ever of like 120,000 battles, 140,000 battles or whatever between the two accounts, and just laughing and just putting on an extra 20%. What an incredible round of World of Tanks. Just an absolute beast mode game. And when we look at the hit points at the top, if we think that that's 4,000, right? Bombodrillo did that and then that. We're talking about kind of half, pretty much half of the bar. Half of the bar and destroying a third of the enemy team. What an absolute incredible game of World of Tanks. And as I said, if you're looking for a tier 11 to get your hands in, to kind of like whet your appetite, if you can't make this one work, then you're probably not ready for tier 11. So this was one of the highest damage games of World of Tanks of all time. 15,190 damage, the ultimate high caliber medal. This was a steel wall, a Top Gun for those 6 kills, and a Confederate as well. And you know you've had a great game where you've destroyed 6 tanks, but you've also damaged 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 other vehicles. Bombodrillo damaged 14 of the 15 vehicles on the enemy team, and they got 1,000 assistants on the mouse that they didn't manage to damage. Just do it all, right? A one-man army in this regard. And even with perfect marksmanship, hitting every single shell that they fired and penetrating 30 of those, because there was a lot of heat that was fired here, they still make a little profit even after resupplying the consumable at full price. But trust me, unless your marksmanship was as good as Bombodrillo's here, yeah, you'd be losing a lot of credits. And it won't be long before Bombodrillo has their 3rd mark of excellence, let alone their 2nd. So Bombodrillo, congratulations to you for multiple reasons. One, the meme name that made me have to say that multiple times in this video. I am cringing harder than the time that I didn't realize that I was reading out an adult actress's gamer tag until the YouTube comments told me. And also, congratulations to you on a game that is just retirement worthy from World of Tanks. You've done it, bro. You won World of Tanks. Congrats to you. And for everyone out there, once again, the KR-1. If you aren't planning on getting this vehicle, get through the IS-7, get the KR-1, get around, get some rams in, and get some fun. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was it for today. Massive thank you to Bombodrillo for this epic game and uploading it on the awesome what-record.com website. And as it is the run-up to Christmas, I'm looking for your great games as well. So if you have monster games and want to be featured on the channel, then make sure you upload them either on what-record.com or quickybaby.what-record.com to be able to get my attention. And I really hope all of you enjoyed this replay. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And let me know in the comments down below whether you think the KR-1 is the easiest tier 11 to play. And if you're watching this video as it goes live on Friday, I'm going live all day on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby with brand new The Walking Dead drops. So come and grab them right now as I crush some random queue and then get stuck into maneuvers later. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic and hopefully I'll see you soon.